Talk to me about this.
I mean, okay, so how this came about was, I wanted to write a book about how censorship works, and then how Bitcoin is the solution to defeating censorship. So I wrote an outline. I thought I was going to do a talk at the Bitcoin conference about it. The talk ended up not coming about, but the book did. And so we wrote this book in 8 weeks. It basically outlines how did censorship start. It was the decentralized century versus the centralized century, like what happened in the
It's very Mark Moss.
Yeah. And then just leading to how Bitcoin and Lightning is a potential to defeat censorship globally, and how it's a base layer to defeat censorship. And I'm very blessed that our investors endorsed the book. Tony Robbins endorsed the cover. Aubrey Marcus, our investor, endorsed the back, and Mark Moss endorsed the back as well.
So is all censorship bad?
Is all censorship bad?
It's a really tricky area I get into. It's like, what is censorship and is all censorship bad? So for example, you have certain policies for things that are unacceptable in your platform, and I completely agree with them. But essentially that's a form of censorship because you're removing content that you disagree with. But I think the line you draw is around like legality and the legal framework.
Yeah. There's totally laws. Fair. Like laws are laws. I can't control the laws. Like that is illegal. We tote the line of illegal. We're not, but I don't have an opinion.
Yeah, but I completely agree with you on that. But other platforms choose to cover things or remove content which isn't illegal, but they deem is better for their platform.
Yeah, of course. Because of how they're built fundamentally. Like remember that the advertisers are the customer of these platforms.
Yeah.
And your data is being used to manipulate you. So a lot of the problems with censorship that I outline in the book is the fundamental differences of the business models. Zion is 100% subsidized by the customers that use the product. We're not bringing in a third party to sell your data to go then make money because we can arbitrage that we're not doing that. It's the business models that are fundamentally broken, and we want to break through those business models.
In that, maybe a far-right group or a white supremacist group, the advertisers on YouTube don't really want their adverts on their content.
Yes.
And there will be other examples, probably better ones I can give than that. Whereas you don't have to think about that.
No, because we're not subsidizing advertising. And the reason I know this is because I was in those meetings, right? My company that I sold previously was an advertising influencer marketing business. I was in meetings with the world's largest advertisers spending billions of dollars on Facebook, saying that we do not want to be associated with this type of content, Facebook. We're going to pull our budget. Please remove that content. It's not brand safe. They remove the content, ban them for community guidelines in terms of service, and then the advertiser runs the ad. This is the business model. This is how they make money. It's not like we shouldn't question it. So you have to change the business model if you want to change the solution.
But I go back to the point, like, should we have ultimate free speech? Should all speech, whatever it is, be allowable and free, or should there be limitations?
My belief is that as human beings, we have agency to receive things and to decide.
Yeah.
We, as two individuals, are sitting here. We're having a conversation. There isn't someone in the middle allowing you to say something to me or me allowing to say something to you. I receive the information, I interpret it, and I say, yes, I don't agree with you. I agree with you. I love you. I don't love you, whatever it is. I think that should be the framework online. But right now, there's many arbiters between us and everything that we see on the internet. We don't know anything that's true or real. I think the framework that we're developing is that you have two DIDs. You have a verifiable credential with an identity hub where I know that everything posted in this single place is Peter's and Peter's only. And I'm signing a key to gather the content as if we're having a personal conversation. And it's my decision to interpret the content that Peter posted in the way that I want. That's where we're going. And that's what I believe is the future.
And what about social networks themselves? Like Facebook, I don't use it anymore apart from to post marketing to. Like, here is a new podcast if you want to listen to it.
Yeah.
Here is something going on with my football team. That's it. I don't share family photos anymore. I don't post opinions. I don't, when it first came, it was quite fun. It was new, and you'd have a photo from the night before and you'd all laugh about it. That's pretty much dead for me. And I feel like Facebook as a platform is dying. Maybe the metaverse will save them. Instagram's kind of interesting, but it's really a little bit like, oh, look how great my life is kind of thing. That's really what it is. I feel like Twitter is failing miserably. for what it is. How do you feel? And also YouTube. Let's throw YouTube in as a social, because it's kind of a social network of videos. There's so much control over what you can and can't post on it now, and people being deplatformed just for having conversations.
Yeah.
Brett Weinstein was removed for having conversations. Now, I disagree with him on some of the things he was talking about, but I want to hear the conversation.
Yeah.
I think even Marty Bent got flagged up recently.
Yeah.
How do you feel? Where do you feel we're at with social networks? And do you think we're heading towards decentralized social networks?
I think we are. I think we're trying to build one. I think we're making an attempt from the base layer. I think that the future of social networks is that it's focused around communities. It's not necessarily these open network frameworks. So I think that, what I always have had an affinity towards personally is that I follow a few people because I really like what they say, and I enjoy the communities that you create. So I don't think that this like open feed of like everyone spewing everything and you just look at everything in this non-ordered thing, I don't think that's the right way social should work.
I agree.
That's why our approach is that there's no open feed. What happens is that if you join Zion, you'll have all these communities you want to join. The JP Sears community, the Peter community, the Mark Moss community, the Robert Breedlove community, the Natalie Brunel community. And then within there, you will have a self-selected group of people that have voted with their Bitcoin that I want to be part of that community, see all the content within that community, have an open conversation in a chat feed with that community, and decide what's happening there, because these people have an affinity towards me. That's what I believe the future of social looks like, is that it's around communities. We're tribal creatures. We want to feel like we're part of things. That's what I feel like the future of social looks like. But there's a lot of other layers. I think that it has to be built on a decentralized monetary layer, bingo Bitcoin. It has to be built on an open source framework. It has to be built in a censorship resistant way. The creators should own everything in a future social network. The people that use the network should have digital property rights through encryption. This is what the future of social should look like. And if we can meet all those parameters, I think we've achieved what we need to achieve.
Yeah, that's interesting, because Elon Musk has come out a little bit critical of the algorithm for Twitter.
Yesterday.
And
I got 3 tweets of those.
Yeah.
A bunch of tweets came to me as like, oh, this is a shoe up for you. Go answer him.
Yeah. Well, it is. Did you see it, Danny?
No,
I think he put out a poll, didn't he? Should the Twitter algorithm
be open source?
Be open source. I think it should be.
Well, I think that the problem fundamentally is the algorithm, right? Because it's an open feed. My disagreement is this open feed that can just spew things and you could just listen to everything. And like one of the things is I think there should be consequences for hate on social networks.
Yeah, I agree.
So like the way that Zion approaches it, for example, if you're in a community, and this is just how we've built it, is that when you make a comment in a community, you stake a certain amount of Bitcoin as a bond to the creator with a staking contract for about 24 hours. If the creator, which you're part of their community, remember, you're inside their community, deems your comment hateful and they delete your comment from this open feed, remember, you're in their world, not your own world, you lose that Bitcoin. You lose the bond.
Can that not be abused though?
Okay, if it's abused, let's go into a scenario with it's abused. If you're the creator and you're abusing your audience, do you think they're going to stick around?
Some might. It's what's deemed abuse. I'll give you an example. So YouTube, despite being the second biggest search engine on the net, being part of Google, having billions and billions of revenue.
They own it.
Right. Their comment section is ridiculous. The amount of spam that gets sent to it is unbelievable.
Exactly.
Okay. So rather than just allowing the spam to get out there and ruining the comment section, we moderate the comments before they're released. Otherwise, you just have, it's just shit. But in going through it, we have a very simple policy. We remove all spam, which is like join my WhatsApp group, all this crap. But we allow all criticism of, even if it's of me, it goes out.
Of course.
We don't allow direct abuse of our guests. So if someone says something horrible, it said, why have you got that fat fuck on? We just won't allow that because we don't want our guests abused. But any criticism of me, the guest, that's allowed. But I could very easily, when I'm moderating those, just get rid of the ones which are critical of me. I can create my kind of like echo chamber of people who support the show. And we don't allow that. But I could do that. And I'm sure some people do. I'm sure some people do remove that. If we had a thing like this, I can remove all the hate and criticism of me and get to keep their Bitcoin.
That's true. But the question is that going to be sustainable for a long term? Because my argument is that those individuals will stop commenting at some point.
Well, there are plenty of people on Twitter who will block people, not for being abusive, just for criticizing them.
Sure.
And they would create their own echo chamber.
Of course. Yeah. And I think, but I think that we haven't seen what this could look like if there was consequences through Bitcoin. I think like that's the thing is like our mission is to clean up cyberspace.
By the way, I
Lightning.
support what you're doing.
Yeah.
I'm just like questioning it.
No, and I know you're questioning it. I think this is a big concept that like, you know, I've spoken with Saylor about individually is like, he thinks that Lightning will clean up all of these centralized networks because imagine you had to be an accredited user in order to even make a comment on Peter's thing. And then if you weren't accredited, you couldn't actually make a comment or you couldn't tweet to me. I only want certain people that are accredited people. We're doing that same thing inside of Zion. So I don't think we know the answer yet. I think the true thing is that we know that right now, you know, Zion has a little bit over 3,000 creators. There's about 1,300 communities in there. If I look at stuff, there isn't a lot of hate in there, but it's a very small network. We don't know yet. But I think if you have consequences through spam, a lot of this stuff will go away.
And I'm with you. Look, Twitter for me has become a problem. And I don't think they've given enough control in the right way to the person controlling their profile. I think
it's not their profile.
The profile that they
think they
own. But they allow kind of like broad things like you can lock your account. Okay, so it's only people who I think you mutually follow can comment, or they lock it so only people that you follow can comment. But I think they should put other tools in there. Like, you know, if I used to post something and maybe it's slightly controversial opinion, it doesn't fit within the common narrative within Bitcoin, you should get all this fucking abuse from people I don't follow, I don't know, I don't like, and it's just absolute bollocks. I would like to be able to just delete them. I would like to be able to remove abusive posts that are under my tweets. And do you know what I'd like to, a tool I think Twitter should do? They've got the block and the mute. I think they should just have a not allowed to comment. So somebody can follow you, they can read your posts, but you can just ban them from comment on you because all they do is post abuse. And I think there's lots of little tools like that they could use, because what Twitter is, it's just one giant community, which is gamed around, for some people, it's gamed around having positive conversations. Others, it's gamed around negative. Yeah, negativity and hate. It's just bollocks.
Yeah. But I think let's look at is that advantageous to their business model? Because what that increases is the hate, in fact, increases daily active users. It increases the number of tweets, and it increases the concept that they sell to an advertiser, which is engagement.
Until it doesn't. You know, Facebook.
I agree.
Facebook's approach worked until it didn't. Yeah. We've seen their share price. I've essentially quit Twitter. Yeah. All I'm using Twitter for now is I will retweet shows when they go out, and I will maybe if there's like a important project like Zion and you message me and say, Pete, look, we've got this, can you retweet it for me? I will. But I have quit being involved in any conversations anymore. It's for me as a tool for debate, it doesn't work. Yeah. Nobody changes their mind, and there's too many people who are pricks to others in conversation.
Very mean.
Yeah. And by the way, I'm a hypocrite myself. I've done it myself. I found myself. The point where I actually decided to come off wasn't someone being hateful to me. It was me being a prick myself. You know, I sent a sarcastic remark to somebody, and then I had a pop at them. I was like, what am I doing here? What am I doing? Why am I? I know I'm not like this in person. Yeah. Every time I see you, we have a positive conversation. Me and Danny have never had an argument in 3 years working together. Yet, for some reason, Twitter makes me turn into a prick. And I was like, I'm done. I'm done with this bullshit.
But I think if you've seen The Social Dilemma, there's a lot of things in the algorithm that they've done some studies that it's like, it creates these echo chambers of hate sometimes. And you're like, yeah, burn it down. Like, yeah, take them down. Like it's the worst parts of us that sometimes are displayed on these centralized networks because it's driven by these algorithms. And I do think that the algorithms don't know the difference between love and hate because they're not humans. They just know the difference between high engagement and low engagement and virality. And to them, that's the proxy they use for their algorithms. It's like, let's get more people riled up because it's more time on our network. And I think that's the danger to society.
It's not just hate though. Like hate is a problem, and it is, and there's a lot of it. And I just don't buy this things like where people say, oh, it's not real life, just ignore it, or just, develop thick skin. When you receive thousands of messages every week that are like horrendous and awful, it's not nice to read, right?
No.
It just does your fucking head in.
No.
It can send you mental. And for anyone to just say that, they've probably never had enough followers or enough hate to realize what it's like.
Yeah.
Also, some people are different. Some people have thicker skin. Let's just accept it. But it's not just the hate. I don't believe progress is made. You and I can sit down and have a conversation. We may agree, disagree, but we will make progress. And we're more likely to be empathetic to each other's opinions in doing this. On Twitter, it's like everybody's looking at me here. I can quickly type a reply and I can quickly just argue and I can double down and I can triple down. And then everyone around me agrees with me. So I must be right. You rarely see someone go, do you know what? I think you're right here. I got this wrong. I'm sorry. That just doesn't happen. There's no incentive model to do it. For me, it's an absolute miserable failure.
Yeah. And I think that's because aren't consequences.
There aren't consequences.
There's zero, like in centralized networks, there are zero consequences. And I've had some like really rough experiences. Like there was a friend that I had in my life for a few months, and she has a crazy stalker somewhere in like Mexico City, and he started attacking me. And the amount of things that he would send me for a month was like on Instagram, like chopping of head off videos and tagging me in them. And I was like, how is Instagram allowing this stuff to exist on their, like, how is this even possible? And then I realized like how big these companies have gone is like, they've lost all their control in terms of the terrible things on the network, because you can sign up to these networks with an email address and a password. You can't verify identity. You have no money tied to this account. So you can build thousands of them, attack someone and then create another account, attack someone, create another account, attack someone and create another account, because there's no fundamental consequences. But coming back to Bitcoin is that if we build this accreditation service on Bitcoin, even on centralized networks, it would disincentivize the hateful things that happen on the internet. It's like our biggest mission is like Zion wants to be the safest and most civil place on the web. Why? Because there's consequences through your digital wallet if you decide to be a bad actor. If you're going to be a terrible person inside of Peter's community, you're going to have financial consequences for being that. But if you're good and you're a good contributor to society and you're a nice person, then everything is all good.
And those consequences exist everywhere else in life.
Exactly. I mean, so there's a chapter in my book, I say this exact story. You go to a bar and you tell someone to their face, like, you're a piece of whatever, you say something bad, and then you hit them in the face. You will have lifelong consequences for your actions in the real world. But you can be the worst person online, send death threats, send death videos to someone, tell them that their blah, blah, blah should go to whatever, like saying very terrible things, and you have no consequences in life. That's a terrible way to live.
Yeah, exactly. If you came in here now and we did this interview and you were just nothing but a horrible, rude prick, probably cut it short and say, do you know what? Not into this, mate. We're not gonna do this. If you come into my home and start yelling abuse at me, I'm gonna ask you to leave.
Of course.
You come into my workplace, you're abusive, you're gonna leave. You go into a bar and you're abusive, they're gonna ask you to. There are consequences everywhere. You're absolutely right. There's none. Some guy the other day to my sister, to my fucking sister. My sister was very close to my mother. He went into her profile. He found a picture of my mum. He found out that my mum had died, and he sent the picture back to my sister and said, everyone's glad she's dead. Where else in life would someone do that? They won't do that. And there's no consequences. But you could build a reputation score. Imagine there's a reputation score. It's based on things like what percentage of people block you or mute you, that kind of thing. Add into it how long you've been on the platform. You have a reputation score. And you could put something like, I don't know, anyone below, say it's out of 10, anyone below a 5 can't comment on my profile.
Yeah.
You're going to work hard not to be a prick.
Yeah.
You're just going to work. We see it in our YouTube videos. You have your likes, your dislikes. We know a video that's like a 97 plus. That's quite popular. We know anything that goes below 90, there are some issues with that. People didn't like that interview. Now, it's not, we're not going to do that again. We're going to question, why did that not work? Why did people not like that? There was always going to be some people, but that to us is a reputation score for each episode. We have reputation scores for the podcast on Apple. Majority of reviews are 5. Some are 1. We ignore those both. We go and look at the 2 and the 3s and the 4s. We're like, okay, these are the most interesting ones. What are people saying? Recently, we had a thing where people were saying, all you have are right-wing libertarians on the show, which isn't true. But we read the comments. It's like, yeah, you know what? Let's go and have a look at how many of our shows are right wing people or libertarians. We haven't asked enough people from the left or moderates. You know, these we consider all these key factors for reputation. It does not exist on Twitter, and it's shit.
Yeah. And it's created this toxic relationship. And it's created like, you get on there, you're like, what am I about to see? Like, if I send this, is someone going to be really hateful and rude to me? Are they going to tell me to die like today because I did something? Like, you don't even know me. Why are you being so mean? Right? Like, there's like, I agree with you. Like when we launched Zion, there's a little bit of little hate that came out towards me. And I felt like, why are these people so mean to me? Like, they don't know who I am. They don't know anything that I came from. Like, what did I do? Like, what did I do to them? And I've been very like, I wasn't very public before this company. I was very quiet. And, you know, I start feeling this thing and I was like, man, Bitcoin has to fix these problems. And I think it's the accreditation piece. And I think like Saylor's talked about this a lot. He's like, because he's this like one of the smartest people in the world that talks about it, is like, how do you fix the internet? And like Lightning and Bitcoin is a way to do it.